Let me tell you something powerful today. You don't need more to do more. You just need to do more with what you already have. Too many people are sitting around waiting for increase before they act, when increase only comes after you act. You're praying for overflow, but God is waiting on you to pour. You're asking for expansion, but you haven't even stretched what's already in your hands. Let me break this down. God never starts with the abundance. He starts with the seed. He gives seed to the sower, not to the complainer, not to the observer, not to the dreamer, the sower. Your bank account might be small right now. Your resources may feel limited, but that little you've got, it's not your limitation, it's your launch pad. You want to make more money? Start mastering what you've got, because money doesn't flow to the person who wants more. It flows to the person who knows how to multiply more. You're not broke. You're just blind to what's already in your hand. That's the problem. Most people walk around saying they don't have enough, but it's not a shortage of resources. It's a shortage of revelation. Because when your eyes are open to what you truly possess, you start seeing possibilities where you used to see problems. You start recognizing opportunities in the middle of what you used to call obstacles. The issue is never the size of what you have, it's your sight. What do you see when you look at your life? Do you see lack or do you see leverage? When God asked Moses, "What's that in your hand?" It wasn't because God didn't know. It was because Moses didn't know. He had a staff, a stick, something ordinary, something he had carried every day. But when it was surrendered to divine purpose, it became a supernatural tool. That staff parted the Red Sea, brought water from a rock, and turned into a serpent before Pharaoh. Why? Because it wasn't about the staff, it was about seeing it differently. And the same goes for you. That job you think is just a job, it could be a training ground. That phone in your hand, it could be a digital business. That network of friends you think is casual, that could be your client base. You're surrounded by potential, but you can't harvest what you can't recognize. You keep saying, if I had more money, I'd start the business. If I had more time, I'd write the book. If I had more support, I'd chase the dream. But that's backwards. You don't get more and then start. You start and then you get more. The provision comes after the vision is acted on. That's how faith works. Faith isn't saying, show me the whole staircase. Faith is saying, I'll take the first step. So what is that step for you? What's the one thing you can do right now with what you already have? That's where multiplication begins. Not with more, but with motion. There are people who've built million-dollar businesses with less money than you have in your checking account right now. There are single moms who've launched brands from their kitchen table with nothing but Wi-Fi and grit. There are young people flipping digital products on free platforms and turning content into capital. The difference is not what they had, it's what they did with it. They didn't see their little as a limitation. They saw it as leverage. They saw it as a doorway, not a dead end. And because of that, they moved. The problem is, many people are trained to see small as insignificant. But small doesn't mean stuck. Small doesn't mean insufficient. Small means scalable. Small means flexible. Small means nimble. In fact, some of the biggest breakthroughs come from small beginnings. Don't despise them. Develop them. You don't need a six-figure budget to build something. You need six-figure belief and single-minded focus. Take what you have and start building. Take your phone and start recording. Take your laptop and start writing. Take your voice and start teaching. Everything you need to make progress is already within reach. What happens when you begin to value the small things is that you start operating in excellence, no matter the size of the stage. And that's when doors open, not because you waited for a spotlight, but because you became light in a dark place. People start paying attention when you stop shrinking. People start investing when you start showing up like you're already worth it. But it starts with what's in your hand right now. Don't talk down on your small job. Don't complain about your old laptop. Don't despise your one-bedroom apartment. Build. Build with excellence. Build with vision. Build with gratitude. If you can't manage little, you'll mishandle large. That's why some people keep getting the same test in different packaging, because they haven't yet passed the stewardship test. They pray for promotion, but they're not promoting themselves in their current season. Promotion isn't something that's handed to you. It's something that's revealed through your habits. If you treat small like it's important, it becomes bigger. That's not motivation. That's multiplication law. That's how the kingdom works. Look around you. Look at your resources. Look at your connections. Look at your ideas. Instead of saying this isn't enough, start asking, how can I multiply this? Instead of saying it's too small, ask, how can I maximize this? That's the mindset shift. You move from victim to visionary, from complainer to creator, from surviving to building. Because once you see the value of what you have, you become unstoppable. Not because things are easy, but because now you see clearly blindness isn't just physical, it's mental, emotional, and spiritual. The worst kind of blindness is to be surrounded by opportunity, but unable to see it. To have greatness in your grasp, but keep calling it just enough. You've got to shake that off. You've got to stop playing small because your resources feel small. Your future doesn't come from what you have. It comes from what you do with what you have. Your vision has to be bigger than your visible. Your faith has to be louder than your fear, because when you start walking in vision, your reality starts rising to meet it. That's when little becomes much. That's when small shifts become exponential results. Not because you added more, but because you activated what you already had. You don't need the harvest to begin, just the seed. That's the first key, and most people miss it. They're out here waiting for the big break, the big check, the big opportunity, but they're overlooking the seed that's already in their hand. If you're waiting on abundance to start, you'll be waiting your whole life. God doesn't give harvest to those who sit. He gives seed to those who sow. You've been given something already. It may look small. It may not seem significant, but it's not the size of what you've got. It's what you do with it that determines the outcome. The seed doesn't look like the tree, but the seed contains the tree. And the seed doesn't multiply in your pocket. It multiplies when you plant it. Now understand this. Your seed might not even be money. It might be time. It might be an idea. It might be a skill you've overlooked because it came easy to you. Most people ignore their gifts because they didn't have to fight to get them. But that's the seed. If you're naturally good at speaking, teaching, fixing, designing, encouraging, organizing, that's your seed. That's where the multiplication begins. But instead of sowing it, too many people are sitting on it, hiding it, or waiting until it feels bigger. But faith doesn't wait for size. Faith moves on substance. Faith says, if this is what I have, I'm going to work it. The reason people stay broke is not because they don't have anything. It's because they don't recognize the value of what they do have. The widow in the Bible told the prophet, I have nothing except a small jar of oil. That except is the seed. That little bit is what God used to produce overflow. But notice, she had to pour it. She had to move. The oil didn't multiply while she waited. It multiplied while she worked it. That's the principle. You've got to move with what you've got. You've got to stop despising the day of small beginnings. You've got to start seeing your current level as the platform for your next level. A lot of people say they want more money, but what they really want is more comfort. And let me tell you, growth doesn't come from comfort. Increase comes from intention. What are you doing with the little? Are you managing it well? Are you investing it? Are you flipping it? Multiplying it? Using it to solve problems? Or are you just spending it, consuming it, wasting it? The seed is not designed to be consumed. It's designed to be planted. That means you've got to deny yourself. That means you've got to put it into something that might not give you a return immediately. But you can't get the harvest unless you go through the soil. You can't reap until you sow. And here's the thing. Most people don't have a money problem. They have a mindset problem. They keep saying, if I had more, I'd do more. But that's not true. You just waste more at a higher level. You don't rise to the level of your income. You fall to the level of your habits. That's why you've got to train yourself to use your seed wisely. You've got to become a steward of the small. Because when you master the small, you qualify for the large. That's how increase works. You don't pray your way into prosperity. You sow your way into it. You build systems. You take responsibility. You create value. And listen, multiplication is always wrapped in movement. You can't stand still and expect things to grow. The farmer doesn't just pray over the field. He tills it, sows into it, waters it, and only then does God bring the increase. So if you've been waiting on God, it's time to realize He's waiting on you. What are you doing with what you already have? Are you investing in your learning? Are you building something small that can scale? Are you packaging your knowledge into value for others? Or are you sitting on your ideas, waiting for the perfect conditions? Perfect conditions never come. You've got to move in faith, not perfection. You've got to treat the little like it's already much. When you treat the seed like it's the harvest will respond. When you respect what you have, it grows. When you work it like it matters, it multiplies. But if you dismiss the small, you'll never be trusted with the large. If you hide your talent in the ground, it won't grow. It will decay. That's what happens when you do nothing. Decay doesn't come from attack, it comes from neglect. So the challenge isn't to get more. The challenge is to use more of what you already have. Because the little in your hand is enough to unlock overflow if you move in obedience, move in wisdom, and move with purpose. Money flows to those who master their current level. That's why increase isn't about asking for more. It's about managing better. If you can't manage $100, what makes you think you'll manage 10,000? The amount doesn't change the person. The amount exposes the person. That's why some people make more money and still stay broke, because they never upgraded their mindset. They never shifted their habits. They never learned the discipline of mastery. Mastery is what multiplies money. You don't get wealthy by chance. You get wealthy by choice. And choice shows up in how you treat every dollar, how you treat every opportunity, how you treat every moment. People keep saying, if I had more, I'd be better. But the truth is, if you don't dominate at your current level, more will only magnify your dysfunction. If you're disorganized with a little, you'll be disorganized. If you're emotionally impulsive when you've got 100, you'll be 10 times worse when you've got 10,000. That's why money doesn't change you. It reveals you. It brings out what's already inside. And that's why mastery matters. You have to learn to become a steward of what you have now. Not just handle it, master it. Know where every dollar goes. Assign every dollar a job. Make your money obey you, not the other way around. Most people never move from survival to success because they skip this stage. They want momentum without management. They want prosperity without planning. They want the spotlight without structure. But there's no sustained increase without consistent stewardship. The blessing comes when you're faithful over a few things. That's not just a nice quote. It's a law. When you prove you can handle small things with excellence, the door to more opens. But if you mismanage the little, you will sabotage the large. Not because you weren't qualified to receive it, but because you weren't trained to sustain it. You've got to stop praying for harvest when you're not even organizing your seeds. You've got to stop declaring overflow when you're leaking from 10 different directions. Mastery is not about perfection. It's about intentionality. It's about awareness. It's about knowing your numbers, knowing your limits, knowing your strengths, and growing them. If your money is out of control, your life will reflect it, because how you handle money is a mirror for how you handle time, energy, and relationships. It's all connected. Mastery isn't isolated. It multiplies across everything you touch. Every dollar you have is a soldier. You can either let those soldiers wander aimlessly, or you can send them to battle. Battle for your future, battle for your vision, battle for your business. But they can't fight if they're undirected. That's why budgeting isn't bondage. It's a weapon. That's why planning isn't boring. It's powerful. And when you start mastering your money, it starts moving differently. It stops slipping through your fingers and starts building something permanent, something generational, something that honors your purpose. There are people making six figures who are still living paycheck to paycheck. Not because they don't earn enough, but because they never learn to master what they earn. The level doesn't matter if the behavior stays the same. You have to break the cycle. You have to retrain your habits. That's the difference between a consumer and a creator. A consumer spends without thinking. A creator invests with vision. One looks for pleasure now, the other plans for power later. You decide who you are by how you manage what's in front of you. Mastery is built in obscurity, not in the spotlight. Nobody sees you managing that small budget. Nobody claps for you paying off that little debt. Nobody celebrates when you skip that impulse purchase to invest in your learning. But that's where the real wealth building begins. That's where legacy starts. In the dark, in the discipline, in the decisions nobody else sees but heaven tracks. Because when you master your current level, you send a signal that you're ready for the next one. You don't need more money, you need more mastery. You need to ask yourself, what can I do better with what I already have? Can you stretch it? Can you invest it? Can you flip it? Can you multiply it? Not in theory, in practice. Every time you waste money, you delay destiny. Every time you master money, you accelerate your momentum. And that's the shift. That's how you make more money from the little you have, not by hustling harder, but by handling wiser. There are principles that govern money, and one of them is stewardship. You can't violate that law and expect lasting increase. You might get a temporary win, but if you don't know how to manage it, it will vanish just as fast. That's why the foundation matters. That's why systems matter. That's why you need discipline more than you need motivation, because feelings fade, but systems scale. When you learn to master your current level, you're no longer at the mercy of circumstances. You create your own outcomes. You shift from chasing money to attracting it. Because money follows mastery. Money responds to structure. Money flows to order. And when you're in alignment, increase becomes inevitable. Don't just try to make money, solve problems. That's the difference between people who stay stuck and people who become successful. One group is chasing dollars, the other is chasing value. When you focus on value, money becomes a byproduct. But if all you're doing is chasing the money, you'll always be in survival mode. The fastest way to increase your income is to increase your impact. And the fastest way to increase your impact is to solve bigger problems. People don't pay for your time. They pay for the transformation you create. The greater the transformation, the greater the compensation. The marketplace doesn't reward effort, it rewards outcome. And the outcome comes from your ability to solve what someone else can't. Every single dollar you earn is a certificate of value. It's proof that you did something for someone they couldn't or wouldn't do themselves. So the question is, what problem are you solving? What pain are you removing? What frustration are you fixing? That's where the money is. Not in talking, not in wishing, not in hoping, but in solving. If you can identify a real problem, position yourself as the solution, and deliver results consistently, you will never struggle financially again. Because money flows to clarity. Money flows to competence. Money flows to confidence. And all of that comes from mastering your ability to solve problems. Too many people are trying to sell products or push services without understanding the real problem they're solving. That's why people ignore them. That's why the bank account stays empty. Because nobody buys coaching. They buy confidence. Nobody buys a fitness plan. They buy the feeling of transformation. Nobody buys content. They buy convenience, speed, clarity, or certainty. You've got to stop focusing on what you're selling and start focusing on what they're feeling. Understand their pain so clearly that when they hear you talk, they say, that's me. And when you present the solution, they say, that's what I need. The better you are at understanding problems, the more powerfully you can present solutions. And that's what creates income. If you look at the most successful people in any industry, they're not just visible, they're valuable. They've mastered the art of understanding what their audience is struggling with and positioned themselves as the one who gets results. You don't have to be the smartest, the fastest, or the most talented. You just have to become the most useful. Useful people never go out of style. When you become a solution, you become indispensable. And when you become indispensable, people start paying you not just for your time, but for your wisdom, your insight, your expertise, your presence. Solving problems also gives you leverage. Because once you've solved a problem for one person, you can solve it for 10, then for 100, then for 1,000. And when you package that solution into a product, a course, a system, or a program, you create scalability. That's how wealth is built. Not just by trading time for money, but by trading solutions for scale. You stop working harder and start working smarter. You stop trying to find customers and start attracting them, because when people know you solve their problem, they come looking for you. You don't chase money, money chases you. But to get there, you have to make a shift in how you think. Stop asking, how can I make money today? And start asking, whose life can I improve today? Every improvement has a price tag. Every transformation has a value. Every solution creates revenue. When you think like a problem solver, you don't need a resume. You need results. You don't need to convince people. You need to serve people. You don't need to pitch. You need to position. And when people feel served, when they feel understood, when they see their life get better because of your voice, your product, or your strategy, they will gladly pay you for it. It's time to stop thinking in terms of selling and start thinking in terms of serving. Serve your way to 7 figures. Serve your way to freedom. Serve your way into overflow. Because money is just a measurement of service rendered. The more value you bring, the more compensation you receive. But the key is clarity. Be clear about who you serve, what problem you solve, and what life looks like after someone works with you. Get so good at defining the problem that your audience feels like you've been reading their mind. That's when trust is built. And trust is the gateway to transactions. You don't need to be famous to be financially free. You need to be focused on solving the right problems for the right people at the right time. You don't need to launch 10 things. You need to perfect one thing. One problem, one offer, one result, one audience. Master it, automate it, scale it. That's how financial freedom is created. You're one solution away from shifting your income, but it starts by identifying the real problem, crafting a powerful solution, and delivering that solution with excellence every single time. That's how you multiply money from the little you have. Not by grinding harder, but by solving smarter. Consumers stay broke, creators build wealth. That's a principle that doesn't change no matter how much the world evolves. If you want to multiply the little you have to shift from being a passive consumer to becoming an active creator. Every day people wake up and consume content, entertainment, products, opinions, distractions, and then wonder why their life isn't changing. But consumption doesn't build legacy. Consumption doesn't pay dividends. Consumption feels good in the moment, but costs you long term. What builds wealth is creation. Creation of value, creation of solutions, creation of content, services, products, and systems that serve people and solve problems. The internet has made it easier than ever to build something from nothing, but most people are still using it to scroll, not to scale. You're on the same platforms that are creating millionaires daily, but the difference is in how you use them. If you're watching, someone else is winning. If you're consuming, someone else is cashing checks. The question is, are you producing anything with your time, your energy, your skill set? Or are you just watching others produce and calling it inspiration? Inspiration without execution is deception. You trick yourself into feeling productive without doing anything that moves your life forward. Every single person has something they can create. You might think you're not creative, but that's a lie. Creativity is not about painting or singing. It's about producing something that didn't exist before. It could be a digital product, a YouTube video, a coaching offer, a blog, a clothing brand, a community, a workshop, a book, whatever it is. If it can help someone else, it can help build your wealth. And the beauty is, you don't need $1 million to start. You need a mindset that says, I'm not going to sit on what I have. I'm going to use it. I'm going to build with it. I'm going to multiply it. When you become a creator, you stop looking for permission. You stop waiting for a raise or an opportunity to fall in your lap. You realize you are the source of your own shift. You start taking ownership of your results. You start seeing problems as possibilities. You stop asking, what can I buy? And start asking, what can I build? That's the switch that leads to wealth. Not earning just to spend, but earning to grow, creating assets, building streams, establishing systems. And it all starts with the decision to create rather than consume. Creators see everything differently. Where others see entertainment, they see opportunity. Where others see content, they see strategy. Where others see followers, they see a tribe, a market, a movement. They don't just post for likes, they post for leads. They don't just talk, they offer transformation. They don't just dream, they deliver. And because of that, they begin to attract money, favor, attention, and growth, not because they're special, but because they've chosen to stop sitting on their gifts and start multiplying them. There's a cost to being a consumer that most people ignore. It's not just financial, it's mental. Every hour you spend consuming someone else's vision is an hour you're not building your own. Every minute you waste comparing your journey to someone else's highlight reel is a minute you could have spent mastering your craft. The price of passive living is a future that looks exactly like your past. But when you shift into creation, you start stacking your time with intention. Every action builds something. Every move creates momentum. Every piece of content, every conversation, every product you build is a brick in your legacy. And it doesn't have to be perfect. That's where most people get stuck. They're waiting to be perfect before they launch, before they record, before they write, before they offer. But wealth isn't built by perfectionists. It's built by producers. Done is better than delayed. Action is better than anxiety. Movement is better than mental overload. The market doesn't pay you for perfection. It pays you for solutions. It pays you for consistency. It pays you for showing up when others stay stuck in their head. So stop thinking so much and start building. You don't need to know everything. You just need to do something. The moment you shift into creator mode, your brain starts working differently. You start asking better questions. Instead of what should I buy next, you ask, what can I sell next? Instead of what should I watch today, you ask, what can I produce today? That mental reprogramming unlocks levels of potential you didn't know existed. Suddenly, your small ideas start to feel like strategy. Your voice starts to sound like influence. Your passion starts to look like profit. Because creation brings clarity, creation builds confidence, and confidence attracts currency. Look at anyone who has built real wealth. They created something. Whether it was content, code, community, curriculum, or commerce, they made something. They didn't just consume. They produced, and then they refined, and then they scaled, and they kept going. Not because they were never scared, but because they decided fear wasn't going to have the final say. That's what creators do. They feel the fear and produce anyway. They feel the doubt and publish anyway. They feel the insecurity and press forward anyway. Because creation is not about comfort, it's about calling. Your ability to make more money from the little you have doesn't start with getting a better job or finding the next hack. It starts with becoming a creator. It starts with looking at what you already know, what you already have, and asking, how can I turn this into value? It starts with taking the same platform you scroll every day and using it to sell, to serve, to share. It starts with turning your attention into intention. Because when you shift from consumer to creator, you shift from broke to building, from waiting to winning, from invisible to impactful. Creation is the foundation of increase. Stop waiting on money and start working your mind. Stop looking for capital and start building your capacity. Stop shrinking because your resources are small. God specializes in multiplying what's surrendered. Take the little you have, sow it with excellence, and you'll see supernatural return. Because the truth is this: you're not lacking. You're just not leveraging. And the moment you start moving, money will start multiplying.